I never thought I'd be the guy to catch his wife cheating, especially not in some sci-fi nightmare scenario like this. Carolyn and I had been together for almost 10 years. We got married young, built a life, had plans. She was always a bit bitchy, sure, but I figured that was just her personality. She could be charming when she wanted to be, but mostly she had that sharp tongue and a dismissive attitude that I learned to accept. Still, I never suspected she'd be capable of anything like this. It started subtly, little things. She was more distant, often busy with her phone when I got home, her excuses about work piling up. She'd brush off my questions with some snide remark about how I was too paranoid or insecure. I let it go because I hate confrontation, and honestly, I didn't want to believe she'd cheat. But then, I started noticing her phone was more locked than usual, and she was hiding her screen when I entered the room. She'd snap at me if I tried to peek, call me paranoid or accuse me of spying, classic deflection. The real shock came last Thursday. I came home early from work, a rare day off, and I decided to surprise her with dinner. I knew she was supposed to be at her sister's place, but her car was gone. So I took a quick look around the house. That's when I first saw it, her phone lying face down on the coffee table, unlocked. I couldn't resist. I picked it up, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There were messages, dirty, explicit, with a guy I didn't recognize, calling her babe and talking about meeting up. The words were graphic enough to make me feel sick. I didn't get a chance to say anything that night because she came home unexpectedly. She looked annoyed, maybe annoyed I was home early, and immediately started acting like nothing was wrong. She threw some attitude, said I was being paranoid, that I was imagining things. But I knew better. Something was off, her nervousness, the way she kept glancing at her phone even when she was making dinner. I felt like I was losing my mind, but deep down, I knew I had proof now. She was cheating, and it wasn't just a one-time thing. I could tell from the texts it had been going on for a while. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling around her lies, the messages I'd seen. I felt betrayed in a way I never had before. I'd always prided myself on being a good husband, faithful, steady. But Carolyn made me feel like I was nothing, like I wasn't enough. And the worst part, she was so dismissive when I confronted her about the messages. She just laughed and said I was overreacting, that I was insecure, that she'd never do anything to hurt me. But I knew better. I had to do something, but I had no idea what. The next morning I started digging. I had to find out just how deep this went. I remembered she'd been obsessed with this new sleep therapy device, a neural monitoring system to help her with her nightmares. She'd been obsessed with it, always talking about how it helped her face her fears. But lately, I'd noticed weird things, her night shifts, waking up in the middle of the night and her phone going off constantly. I decided to look into it. I figured maybe she was hiding something through her therapy, or worse, the therapy was being used for something else entirely. That's when I made a shocking discovery, something I never expected. Her neural monitor had recorded her entering shared dreamscapes with someone else, someone who wasn't part of her therapy, someone who, according to the logs, she'd been connecting with during her sleep, and not just talking, having full-on, intimate sexual dreams. The recordings showed her and that guy, a supposed dream architecture programmer, going at it in ways that made my blood boil. It was as if she'd turned her therapy into a secret affair, a whole other life happening behind my back in her subconscious. It felt surreal, like I was living in some twisted nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The recordings were clear. Her voice, his voice, the sounds of their bodies, the intimacy, they were all there. And I realized with a sickening realization that she'd been sneaking around, not just in real life but in her dreams too. This wasn't just emotional infidelity. It was something more invasive, more humiliating. She'd been betraying me at the deepest level possible. I couldn't even be mad about the affair anymore. How could I be? It was like my entire reality had been shattered into pieces I couldn't put back together. I spent hours just staring at those recordings, trying to process what I was seeing. The images kept flashing in my head, her face, flushed and aroused, her voice whispering things I'd never imagined hearing her say, and that guy. What was his name? Jake. His voice low and confident as they shared those dreamscapes. It was like some sick science fiction story, except it was real. Worse, it wasn't just a one-time thing. I could see logs showing they'd been doing this for weeks, maybe longer. Every night in her sleep, she was meeting him, fucking him in her subconscious. I felt every ounce of my confidence drain out of me. How could I even confront her about this? How do you tell your wife you know she's been secretly having sex with some guy in her dreams while you sleep in the same bed? The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't breathe. I wondered if I'd been blind all along, if I'd missed the signs, if I'd been too busy with work, or just too stupid to see what was right in front of me. I decided I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know, but I also knew I needed a plan. If I just went off the rails and accused her without proof, she'd deny everything and I'd look like a crazy man. So I waited, biding my time, watching her. That night she went to bed early as usual and I slipped into her study. I knew I couldn't just confront her with the recordings. They were safe on an encrypted drive I'd managed to copy. I'd need to catch her off guard, maybe record her reaction, see if I could get her to slip up. But what really scared me was the emotional toll this was taking. Every time I remembered her moans, her voice telling that guy how much she loved her dream lover, I felt like I was drowning. I'd always thought we were solid, that our marriage was built on trust. Turns out I was just fooling myself. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was lying in my face, sleeping with someone else in her mind. That's a kind of betrayal I never could have prepared for. I started questioning everything I knew about her. Was she just pretending to be interested in therapy, or did she genuinely believe the dreams were just that, dreams? I remembered her dismissing my concerns, calling me paranoid when I asked if she was okay. All those little signs, her secretive phone habits, her late nights, made a lot more sense now. She'd been hiding her secret in her subconscious, in her dreams, in her very mind. And I was the fool who thought I knew her. I felt rage bubbling inside me. Not just hurt, but pure, unfiltered rage. How could she do this to me, to us? I had so many questions, but I knew the answers wouldn't come easily. I had to be smart about this. I couldn't let her see what I knew. I needed a way to catch her, to prove she was lying. Maybe I'd set up some kind of recording device or try to get her to confess. Whatever it took, I wasn't going down without a fight. But then, something even more shocking happened. As I was reviewing the data, I noticed her neural system logs showed her entering those shared dreamscapes at times I thought she was asleep or working late. It was like she was secretly living two lives, one awake, one in her subconscious. I couldn't help but wonder, was this just physical cheating, or had she truly fallen for this guy in her mind? Was Jake just an avatar for something deeper, an escape, a fantasy that she couldn't find in real life with me? And that's when it hit me. If I wanted to really hurt her, I needed to understand what this meant for our marriage. Because if she was so willing to cheat in her dreams, maybe I was just an afterthought, a placeholder. Maybe I'd been losing her long before I even knew. I felt a strange mixture of grief and anger. I'd always tried to be the good husband, the provider, the protector. But now I saw I was just a shadow to her, someone she used as a crutch or a cover-up for her real life. I knew I couldn't just walk away from this. Not yet. I had to find out how deep this rabbit hole went. I had to prepare myself for the worst, because I had a sinking feeling that this wasn't just about her sleeping around. It was about something darker, something I might never be able to fix, no matter how much I wanted to. I never imagined I'd be here, staring down the kind of betrayal that leaves you questioning everything. But I was, and I was only just beginning to understand just how much damage she'd done, even in her sleep. After that night of discovering her secret double life in her dreams, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing, replaying everything I'd seen, trying to make sense of it all. The recordings, the logs, her dismissive attitude, nothing made sense anymore. I was furious, crushed, and strangely numb at the same time. How could she do this? How could someone who seemed so cold and bitchy on the surface be secretly sharing these intimate, forbidden dreamscapes with some guy? And what the hell did it mean for us? I knew I had to confront her, but I also needed to be smart about it. If I stormed into her office or started yelling, she'd just deny everything or turn it around on me. I needed her to slip up, to give me something I could use. So I waited again, watching her carefully. The next day I pretended everything was normal, but inside I was planning my move. I had to get her to admit something or at least reveal her true feelings. That evening, I decided to cook dinner, something simple, trying to keep things normal. She came home looking prickly as usual. I could tell she knew I was onto her, but she played it cool. She snapped at me when I asked about her day, calling me paranoid and saying I was imagining things. I felt a wave of anger. I was tired of her lies, tired of pretending I didn't see what was happening. I wanted her to confess, to look me in the eye and lie outright. I started a subtle conversation about her therapy, about her nightmares, about the progress she was making. She rolled her eyes and dismissed it, calling me overly nosy and paranoid, just like always. But then I mentioned the neural logs, how I'd managed to peek at some of her data after she left her laptop open. Her face froze for a second. That's when I saw her eyes flicker with guilt or maybe panic. I pressed a little more, asking if she'd been hiding anything from me. She snapped back, saying I was crazy to think she'd cheat in her sleep, that I was insecure and jealous. That's when I knew she was lying, but I didn't press her further that night. The next morning, I decided I had enough evidence. I went into her study, pulled up her neural system logs, and downloaded everything I could find. I knew I'd have to prepare for a showdown. I wasn't just going to accuse her blindly. I wanted her to trip up, to slip into a lie so obvious I could use it. I set up my recording device in her bedroom, ready to catch her in the act or, at the very least, to record her reaction if she confronted me about what I knew. While she was at work, I sifted through the logs again, trying to piece everything together. Her sleep patterns, the times she entered those shared dreamscapes, the conversations she had with Jake or whoever he was. It was worse than I thought. The logs showed she'd been entering the dream environment almost nightly, sometimes multiple times in one night. And the recordings showed her voice, whispering sweet nothings to him, telling him how much she loved being with him in those shared dreamscapes. It was agonizing. I'd known she was unfaithful in the waking world, but now I realized she was cheating on me in her mind, in her sleep, in a place I couldn't reach or control. I started feeling sick, physically ill at the thought of her lying there, sneaking off into these secret worlds. It made me question everything about our marriage, about who she was really. Was she just using me as a cover, a safe place to come back to after her secret escapades? Or was she genuinely falling for this guy, Jake? The logs didn't lie. They painted a picture of betrayal so deep it felt like I was drowning, gasping for air. That night I waited, heart pounding, as she came home. She looked annoyed as hell, already sensing something was off. I kept my cool, asked her about her day, and then, just casually, I brought up her sleep therapy, saying I'd been looking into the logs. Her face went pale for a second, then she laughed, trying to brush it off. I could see through her. I told her I knew about her secret meetings, her secret dreams, whatever she wanted to call them. Her eyes widened and she started lying faster, calling me crazy, accusing me of invading her privacy, that I was just jealous and insecure. But the thing was, I wasn't just angry anymore, I was hurt, deeply. She'd been cheating on me in her sleep, lying about everything for weeks, maybe months. And the worst part, I knew she wouldn't stop. She was already caught and she knew it. I felt a strange mixture of emptiness and rage. I kept asking myself, how do you move on from this? Can I ever trust her again? Or was this the end of everything we had built? The betrayal wasn't just about her sleeping around. It was about her using our marriage as a cover-up while she ran off into her own little secret universe with him. And that universe, I realized, was more real to her than I ever was. The confrontation that night was like something out of a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. She was furious when I brought up the logs, her face twisting into a mix of anger and panic. She tried to deny everything at first, calling me paranoid, accusing me of invading her privacy, saying I was just jealous and insecure. But I had the evidence, every log, every recording, her own voice whispering in those dream recordings. I threw it all at her, not all at once, but enough that she couldn't deny it. Her reaction was infuriating. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and threw out a line I'd heard before: "You're overreacting. This is all in your head. You're crazy to think I'd do something like this." But I knew better. I could see the truth staring her right in her bitchy little face. It was written all over her, in her trembling hands, her evasive eyes, her desperate lies. I just looked at her and said, "So, you think I'm stupid? You've been sleeping with this guy Jake in your dreams in real life and you're just going to deny it." That's when she snapped. She started yelling, calling me a jealous psycho, saying I was ruining the only thing she had. She told me I was insecure and that I had no right to invade her privacy like this. Honestly, I was too angry to even process her words. My brain was foggy with betrayal, humiliation, and a strange, cold fury. I told her. I wasn't going to let her dismiss what I'd found, that I knew everything, her messages, the recordings, the logs. I told her I had proof she'd been lying to my face for months, maybe longer. She spun around, trying to storm out, but I blocked her path. I was done pretending I didn't see the real her. I told her I knew she was cheating, sleeping with Jake in her dreams, betraying me in the most intimate, invasive way possible. Her face twisted into a sneer and she spat back that I was just jealous, that I was insecure because I couldn't handle her independence, that I was a control freak, that she needed her freedom. I could see she was trying to gaslight me, make me feel guilty for invading her privacy. But I didn't care anymore. Nothing mattered but the truth. Her words hit me like a punch. I was furious, heartbroken, and a little relieved to finally know the truth. But mostly I was just exhausted. I told her that I couldn't stay married to someone who lied to me every night, who used her dreams as a playground for her infidelity. I told her I was done. I was walking away. The look on her face was priceless. She was stunned, angry, and a little afraid. She realized I wasn't bluffing anymore. That night I packed a bag. I didn't want to be around her anymore, not with her lying and cheating in her sleep and in her waking life. I told her I was leaving, that I needed time to think, to figure out what I wanted. I knew I wouldn't be coming back, not after finding out the truth. I left while she was still fuming, feeling a strange mixture of relief and despair. It was the first real step I took toward ending this nightmare. In the days that followed, the emotional fallout was intense. I felt betrayed on every level possible, by her lies, her deception, her total lack of respect. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't perfect, and I'd made my share of mistakes, but I never thought she'd be capable of cheating on me in her subconscious, of turning her marriage into some kind of twisted playground for her fantasies. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I could ever trust her again, or even myself. I kept revisiting those recordings, trying to understand what it all meant. Was she just lying in her sleep, or was she falling for Jake? Did she think of him as a real person, or was he just a way to escape her own reality? These questions haunted me, but I knew I couldn't stay. I had to get out to protect whatever was left of my sanity. Looking back now, I realize this has changed me forever. I learned that sometimes betrayal isn't just about the obvious, like cheating in real life. It can be something more insidious, something that seeps into your mind and dreams. I also learned that some people are capable of hiding so much beneath a bitchy attitude and a sharp tongue that you never see the signs until it's too late. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. Trust, once broken this badly, is almost impossible to repair. And sometimes, walking away is the only way to salvage what's left of yourself. The aftermath hit me like a freight train. I moved out, stayed with a friend for a while, trying to process everything. The house felt cold and empty without her, without the woman who once seemed so confident and bitchy, but now just looked like a complete stranger in her own home. I kept replaying the recordings over and over, trying to understand how I'd missed all of this. How she could lie so convincingly, even in her sleep. It made me question everything about our relationship, about her motives, about myself. The worst part was the emotional wound. The betrayal in her dreams had cut so deep that I couldn't help but feel like I'd been fighting a losing battle from the start. That she'd been cheating on me in her subconscious, hiding her true feelings while I was just working my ass off to keep us afloat. I kept asking myself, did I mean nothing to her? It felt like she had lied to me even when she was silent, even when she was asleep. The idea that she'd been unfaithful in her own mind tied into everything else, her dismissiveness, her secretive attitude, her coldness when I confronted her. I won't lie, there were moments I felt hope. Maybe she'd realize how much she'd hurt me, how much her lies had destroyed what little trust we had left. Maybe she'd come clean, apologize, and we'd somehow rebuild. But deep down, I knew that was a fantasy. She had lied so much, hidden so much, that I wasn't sure I even knew who she was anymore. That realization was a punch to the gut. How do you come back from a betrayal that wasn't just physical but emotional and mental? I didn't have an answer, and honestly, I didn't want to stick around to find out. I reached out to a therapist, someone who specializes in betrayal trauma. I needed to talk to sort out my feelings, even if I wasn't sure I could ever forgive her or myself. It helped a little, giving me some clarity about how I felt and what I needed to do. The therapist told me that her cheating in her dreams was a form of escape, that maybe she was unhappy but too afraid to face it. But that didn't comfort me. Nothing could undo what I'd seen, what I knew. I started thinking about what I wanted from all this. I knew I wouldn't go back. No matter how much I loved her or how much I'd hoped for a future, I couldn't ignore the fact that she'd been lying in her sleep, betraying me while I was vulnerable. That kind of betrayal, I realized, isn't just about infidelity, it's about disrespect, a fundamental breach of trust that's hard to repair. I didn't want to live in a house full of secrets, and I didn't want to be with someone who could do this to me. So I decided to start over. I filed for divorce, thinking it was the only way to truly move on. I didn't want her anymore, not her lies, her sneaky dreams, her dismissiveness. I wanted peace, even if it meant starting from scratch. I also knew I had to be honest with myself about what I deserved. I deserved someone who valued honesty, respect, and the truth, not someone who turned her marriage into some twisted fantasy land. Since leaving, I've been trying to rebuild my life piece by piece. It's not easy. Every time I hear her name or see something that reminds me of her, I feel a stab of pain. But I also feel relief. Relief that I finally know what I was dealing with, that I don't have to live in her shadow anymore. I've learned a lot from this experience about trust, betrayal, and the importance of listening to your instincts. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone reading this, it's this. Be honest with yourself about what's happening in your relationship. Don't ignore the signs, even if they're uncomfortable. And if betrayal happens, whether in reality or in dreams, it's okay to walk away. Sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to leave behind what's broken. Because no matter how much you love someone, you can't fix something that's fundamentally been shattered by lies and betrayal. Not all wounds heal, and some betrayals change you forever. That's a hard lesson, but it's one I had to learn the hard way. In the end, I realize I've become someone I barely recognize. This betrayal, this invasion of my mind and marriage, changed me in ways I never thought possible. I used to believe in honesty, in loyalty, in the sanctity of the vows we made. But now I see that even in the most intimate corners of your life, some people can hide a darkness you never knew was there. My wife, Carolyn, showed me that sometimes the betrayal doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly in the shadows, inside her dreams, in the secret chats, in the dismissive attitude she wore like armor. I've learned that trust is fragile. It's built brick by brick, but it can be shattered in an instant, sometimes by something you never see coming. Her cheating in her sleep was a betrayal so deep it redefined my understanding of fidelity. It wasn't just a physical affair. It was a psychological invasion, a violation of the most sacred part of me, the part that believed we were in this together. Her lies, her dismissiveness, her secret dreams, they all painted a picture of a woman who'd long since checked out, emotionally and mentally. Now I live with the weight of what I know. The recordings, the logs, the memories, they're etched into my mind forever. I can't erase them, and I don't want to. They serve as a constant reminder of what I went through, of what I should never allow to happen again. I've come to accept that some betrayals leave scars that never fully heal, and that's okay. Because I've also learned that my worth isn't tied to her lies. I'm still here, still standing, still trying to find my way back. Looking back, I can honestly say I'm stronger for having faced this. Not because I wanted this pain or this humiliation, but because I refused to stay blind. I refused to pretend I didn't see what was right in front of me, and I refused to let her betrayal define me. I want to move forward, rebuild my life, and find someone who respects me enough not to hide her secrets, whether in her dreams or in her waking hours. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, I'll say this: trust your instincts. Don't dismiss the little signs. And when betrayal finally comes to light, whether in reality or in a dream, don't be afraid to walk away. Because sometimes the greatest act of self-love you can do is to let go of what's broken, no matter how much it hurts. Only then can you truly start healing. I've learned that love isn't just about the good times, the promises, or the shared dreams. It's about respect, honesty, and loyalty, things I thought we had. But now I see that those things can be taken away in a heartbeat. And once they're gone, all that's left is the truth and the freedom to finally be myself again.